Merry Christmas, everybody. It's almost the end of 2022, and I thought I would take a moment and look back at the knives that I carried fairly routinely throughout the year, share a few thoughts on how each of these knives served me, maybe pick a couple of favorites. Um, Yeah, so and a lot of these things have been featured on this channel before in other videos. So if you follow the channel, you're likely to have seen most of these knives at some point, but not in this context and not in a not all in one go. All right, so um, first of all, let's clarify. I live in Texas. In Texas, it is now legal to carry an automatic knife in most places without any kind of special caveats. You don't have to be active duty military or law enforcement as you did some years ago. And so some of the knives in this assortment are autos. Um, let's start with the autos. I'll show you those and get those out of the way first. So from Boker Plus, this is the Kwaiken OTF. All right. And there's another series of automatic Kwaikens from Boker Plus that are side opening autos, which are made by ProTech. The OTF is not made by ProTech. It's made by CoberTech. It doesn't say CoberTech on it, but that's their logo, the icon there of the cobra mouth in a shield. CoberTech, I believe, is a Texas-based company, but that doesn't mean that all of their manufacturing happens in, or even any of their manufacturing necessarily, happens in Texas or in the United States. This is represented as a Boker USA knife, and I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with CoberTech. I think a lot of the components are manufactured overseas. Maybe they assemble them in the U.S. Anyway, it's a well put together knife. It's aluminum handle scales, D2 satin finished Kwaiken blade. Action on it is nice and snappy. I think this is a reasonable OTF knife, and one that I have carried a bit this year, and that has been reliable. I haven't had any failures, haven't had to reset the blade or anything. Haven't had to really do any maintenance or service on this. Yeah, if an OTF is your thing, I think this would be a perfectly reasonable one to EDC. Also in the automatic category, we do have a ProTech on the table. I picked this up used this year. This is ProTech Magic. They are just now releasing some with black finished blades. This is designed by Whiskers. It's 154 cm steel. It's not CPM 154. It's regular old ingot formed 154 cm, which is fine. I mean, that's a good knife steel, but it's not the latest or greatest or anything. The cool feature of this knife is the hidden release mechanism. It's a bolster actuated auto. I like the tuxedo look here. That's white paper micarta is the inlay there. It feels basically smooth. Doesn't really have any texture to it, but the knife has good ergos generally. And yeah, that is something that I have EDC'd a bit this year. And I've been reasonably happy with it. I'm a little reluctant to EDC it because I don't want to scratch up this pocket clip because I don't know if I can get a replacement for it very easily. And this is an expensive knife that I may at some point want to resell. So yeah, I mean that's one of the issues about carrying an expensive knife, right? Is that if you lose it or if you get it dinged up just using it as an EDC, it's a real loss. So you're less likely to carry it as an EDC, or at least I am. Also in the automatic category, I picked up a Gerber. Supposedly these are being discontinued, although they're still available in some places. I don't know if it's just like 2022 is going to be the last year, or maybe they changed their mind and they're not discontinuing it. As far as I know, it is being discontinued. This is the Auto Fairbairn, Fairbairn Applegate-Fairbairn in S30V. And it's got a nice snappy action. Side opening automatic, made in the USA, made in Portland. I had to sharpen this up a bit, and it is now nice and sharp. And I have used it as an EDC, and it's great. It's great. I prefer this vastly over the assisted version, because the assisted version has a great big hump here where the thumb stud is. It sticks out here, and then it sticks out up here once the knife is open. You don't have that with the auto version. You just have regular jimping up there. Ergos are much better. Okay. Let's see. Still in the auto category, we've got two more. Another Gerber. This I picked up fairly late in the year, so I haven't EDC'd it much, but I have carried it a few days. I have two versions of this now, the Auto6. The other one I have is a Tonto blade, and it's just plain. This is a combo edge, so it's got serrations on it. You know, I've carried this some. I haven't actually put it to much use. So, you know, I mean, it's a capable knife. I can say that. I like that it has a large button, and it's a bit heavy. Oh, not quite a pocket anchor, but it's getting there. This is the aluminum handled version. I will say I have the G10 handled version, and it is a little slimmer and a little lighter. Oh, one thing I love about this is that this pocket clip, despite being a good serviceable pocket clip, it's nice and broad and low profile, and it really just disappears in the hand. It does not create hot spots. You can get a full gorilla grip on there, and it's not going to do any damage to your palm. Very comfortable. Yeah. One more auto. That would be the Kershaw. This is a discontinued version of the Launch. This is the Launch 3. This is in CPM 154. Okay, so this is the particle metallurgy version of that same steel that we saw in the ProTech. This is, again, made in the USA. I disassembled this knife and serviced it at one point this year, and I was surprised at how simple it was to put together and take apart and put back together. Some autos are a real pain. You got these springs that fly out and are, you know, difficult to reset and stuff like that. This thing was super easy, and so I really appreciate that. And despite being a pretty simple mechanism, it works fine. Action's good. There's going to be a new release sometime soon from Kershaw as a exclusive at Blade HQ. That it's going to be a little one. It's got like a 2.5 inch blade, something like that, in the Launch series. But it's got Ultem handles that look, they're the amber handles that look kind of like beer, and Magnacut blade, and those are going to go for $124. I definitely want to get one of those if I can before they sell out. Just heads up, you might want to get one too. They're not out as of today, Christmas Day, but it does say coming soon, so I'm keeping an eye on that. All right. Now I think everything left is manuals. There are a couple of fixed blade pocket carry knives. I picked up an MKM Mikro, an M390. I used this a bit this year. Carried it actually quite a bit. It wasn't always my primary. Sometimes it was a secondary knife. It It works great for small cutting tasks, opening boxes and stuff like that. This sheath is a real clever idea, but in my experience, the magnet is not as strong as the friction. So I end up pulling this whole thing out of my pocket instead of just pulling the blade out of the sheath. The idea is you're supposed to wrap this, supposed to put this in your pocket, close this on this flap over the outside of your pocket, and it locks in with a magnet, and then you can pull the blade out of your pocket, and the magnet's supposed to retain the sheath in your pocket. If I had tighter pockets, maybe that would work, but in my experience, this whole thing tends to come out, and so you have to take the sheath off out of your pocket. They do make a Kydex sheath for this, with some different carry options. That's intriguing, but it seems really overpriced. It's like, you know, half again as expensive as buying the knife. So I wish that this was just available with the Kydex sheath in the first place, and we could subtract the money that you pay for the leather sheath, because I think that Kydex sheath is probably going to be more usable in most situations. I love the crowned spines on these MKMs. It's so comfortable, even though this is a proud spine. It's nicely rounded over, and then it's got jimping and micarta, little blue accent. It's attractive. Some people say that MKM's heat treat on M390 is a little underwhelming. They don't get it as hard as they would like. I haven't, you know, really put this to any kind of extreme use where that would be evident. But, you know, just in typical daily cutting tasks, it has performed just fine. I don't remember if I've ever even touched this up on a strop or anything, and it's still reasonably sharp, but despite having opened plenty of boxes. So I'm so far reasonably happy with the performance of this edge and this steel. This is Jesper Wagner's design, right? Made in Italy. That crowned spine is here again. We see it all the way through, you know, the whole tang of the blade, and it's crowned in the finger choil too. And so even though this is a tiny knife, I get, you know, kind of 2.5, 3 fingers, plus I get, you know, nice area of jimping for my thumb and jimping back here that helps lock it into my palm. For a tiny fixed blade, it's pretty impressive. I just wish the sheath had a little stronger retention, not of the knife, but of the pocket clip itself. Was held it stronger, more securely in my pocket. It's the only real complaint I have about it. The other small fixed blade I carried a bit this year was this little one from Civivi. I'm trying to remember what this is called. Does it say? Stop Hell design. It doesn't look like I have the model name on it. I'm sorry, guys and gals. But this is 10CR steel, which is fine. It's, you know, kind of in the ballpark of like VG10. And it's a little scalpel. You know, it is a precision cutter. And, you know, I didn't carry it a lot this year, but I carried it some, and I'm pleased with it. Again, though, we have the same issue of this pocket clip not being very strong retention. So when I pull on this, the friction fit, or you know, the molded fit of the little Kydex is stronger than the security of this clip to my pant material if I'm carrying this in a pocket. Now, if you were carrying it on a ball chain as a neck knife, then, you know, the clip wouldn't matter. But yeah, that clip doesn't have a strong enough spring to hold it securely in your pocket when you pull the knife out. You're going to end up, you know, at least half the time pulling the thing out with the sheath on it. At least that's been my experience. This comes with a little titanium Civivi lanyard bead. Yeah. All right, on to the manual flippers. Well, actually, let's get one other thing out of the way. I picked up a big ass Gerber center drive, and I carried it some this year, in a sheath. This is too big for pocket carry. It's got a pretty substantial knife blade on it. I haven't used the knife all that much. The pliers on this are good. It's got replaceable hard wire cutters. The sort of headline feature of this thing, though, is the driver, which kind of ends up being it. They've got it on this arm that bends to center the thing, so that when you're operating the tool, it stays in the middle as opposed to being offset on the side. It's a good driver. It takes full-size bits, unlike some of the Leatherman style ones that take proprietary slender bits. And it does have onboard storage for an extra bit. And it locks, right? Which is one of the complaints about like the arm bar from Gerber, is that the driver doesn't lock, and so it can collapse while you're trying to use it. This thing is kind of a beast, kind of a tank. Probably more practical as a tool to keep in a toolbox than to carry in your pocket, for sure. Sheath carry, yeah, okay. But yeah, I carried this some. The driver came in useful. All right. So let's get some obvious things out of the way first. By far the knife that wins in terms of, the knife I carried most this year was the Para 3, and then right behind that was the Paramilitary 2, which are maybe boring choices. For 2022, there's a lot of new stuff out there. These knives have been around for a while, and people are familiar with them. They know they're good. This is the Paramilitary 2 CQI version. This is the latest version. It's an S45 VN steel with black hardware, right? Some previous versions of this had stainless steel hardware and weren't entirely blacked out. Or I think they had black, well, I can't remember if they had black screws or not, but the liners were not black. This is a little bit of an improvement. I see that Knife Center is coming out just in a couple of days with an all-black Paramilitary 2 in crew wear. If you haven't seen that announcement yet, heads up, that's coming soon. I think it's coming out the 27th of December, 2022. I doubt they'll be in short supply. You should be able to get one if you want one. If it's near December of 2022 still when you're watching this video. I'm sure eventually they'll, there's a limit, and they'll sell out. But yeah, crew wear has been a real popular steel this year. I don't think any of the daily carry knives I used much this year were crew wear. I do own a few crew wear knives, but yeah, if I was going to carry one on a daily basis, I would want it to have a coated blade, and yeah, that one that's coming from Knife Center in a couple days will meet that criteria. So you might want to check that out. The Para 3 that I've been carrying, I've got a few Para 3s. Probably the coolest one I've got is the Frayed and Lock and Key exclusive that has a marbled carbon fiber handle scales and LMAX steel. This is an older one that has just S30V steel, which is still very good steel, completely usable. Powder metallurgy, reasonably tough, reasonably hard, not impossible to sharpen. But yeah, S45VN is probably preferable, which is what the current sort of baseline Para 3 is. This one, I replaced the original scales with RGT skinny scales. The difference is that there's not a mid hump right here, which can be more comfortable, right? Depending on the shape of your hands and sort of which grip you're holding it in. Um, the This is they call this color bone, although I'd call it something more like tan. Linen micarta, and I also replaced the um, pocket clip with a folded deeper carry, not quite deep carry, but deeper carry titanium clip from Lynch Northwest. Um, yeah, reliable. You're probably very familiar with this knife or this line of knives, so I won't not going to belabor it too much. But you know, yeah, probably my go-to, right, for through most of the year. It's probably got more carry than other knives. Got lots of use. It's still in pretty good shape. The blade, it's not doesn't have quite as much of a tip on it as it could. But yeah, it's been easy to resharpen, and despite having used this quite a bit, the blade looks great. It's that the satin finish on these things is it's like slightly stone washed. Um, so yeah, you know I could go on about the Para 3 and what a great knife it is, but you're probably more interested in seeing some of the uh, less common stuff that's in this pile. I have another PM2 that I carried quite a bit this year, and it is the Wharncliffe exclusive in CTS XHP that came out from Cutlery Shop. And originally this had bright orange G10 handles. I replaced them with titanium Lotus scales from uh, Flytanium, and I added a Meton Boss titanium uh, backspacer. This had a bit of a rattle in it, as I mentioned the last time I showed this knife on the video. And I used some silicone. I just squeezed a little tiny bit of silicone in there and then cleaned off the excess, and that created a little cushion for it so it doesn't rattle anymore. But yeah, it was rattling despite everything being tightened down. I also added a Lynch Northwest clip to this, which does make it deep carry, right? Um, this knife is really a very efficient cutter, super great for opening boxes and stuff like that. I worry about the tip of it. I'm worried at some point I'm going to break the tip off and I'm going to be sad about it. But haven't yet. And yeah, this has probably been up there among my top, daily carry knives in terms of frequency and just in enjoyability and pride of ownership. I've really been pretty pleased with this knife. It's a good one, and CTS XHP is a great steel. So um, these unfortunately are sold out. Um, but if you've got one, good for you. All right, let's do some of the more budget stuff. This is the Arroyo from Artisan Cutlery. This is in their proprietary powder metallurgy steel ARP, AR RPM 9, right? Um, which is basically 9CR steel in powder form, right? It's a liner lock, good flipping action on this, Persian style blade, upswept, uh, and a ton of belly. This is a great cutter, great slicer. Poked myself very slightly there. That's what happens when you're trying to manipulate knives and you're reaching around a tripod and looking through a viewfinder instead of looking at the actual knife. I really like the what they've done here with this it jimping. It looks almost like file work, right? That's my favorite feature about this knife. and this is in JG10, and it's not just flat scales. It's got a little chamfering, and it's got a sort of a center channel. So it's got some texture, some things to hold on to. I kind of wish that this thing had thumb studs or thumb disc or something. It would be potentially in the cutting path, but it would be nice to be able to flick this open that way as opposed to this way. But you know, I'm just looking for things to criticize or ask for at this point. This is really a pretty good knife at a great price. You know, you can find these, you know, less than $50. Yeah, good option. Let's stay with the modestly priced stuff here. A couple of Civivis. Button lock Elementum. I got 2 of these. They're very affordable. No, speaking of thumb studs and thumb discs and thumb hole openers, there's not even a flipper on this. It's the only way to open this is with the button. You can't even two-hand open it because the way they've got this set up, the button locks it closed as well as open. So it is entirely a flick of the wrist knife. These are larger than regular the original Elementum. These are like 3.5 inches long. This one is in G10. They've got them in micarta as well. You know, just great for $60 or whatever. I added a titanium clip to this one, which makes it not deep carry, but a little classier. Okay. I tried to add a titanium clip to the Chevalier, but the screws weren't the right length that came with it. So I've got the original deep carry folded over steel clip on there. The Chevalier is again a button lock, but it behaves differently than the Elementum. It's got a flipper. You can open it when it's in the closed position without depressing the button. The button does not lock it closed. The button only locks it open. I love the blacked out Civivi logo. I mean, Civivi is great in that they don't put a lot of, you know, billboarding on their blades anyway. Really sort of the only branding on a lot of their knives is the C logo on the pivot. And here it's made just even more minimal by making it solid black. And good on them, you know. You can flick it open with a fuller or with a flipper tab. It's a sheep's foot design, you know, almost a regular, you know, not even a modified sheep's foot, but just a straight up sheep's foot, except that the edge does lift up a little bit as we get toward the end. It's not completely flat across the bottom. Good action. Yeah, not really much to complain about here. These are very reasonably priced. The steel on this 14C28N, I believe, if I remember correctly, which is fine. Sandvik steel made in Sweden. Pretty good balance, traditional ingot formed steel. All right. I got a couple more Civivis. The Odium. This is in D2 steel. Despite the black coating on this one still has developed some spots in the coating that I cannot seem to scrub out with CLP. But I love the ergonomics of this little knife. It does have a finger choil. It's right up there with the Spyderco Dragonfly in terms of, you know, having a full grip on a tiny knife. And it excels in the shape of the handle because it's got this chamfered, almost contoured handle. Smooth G10. You know, there's jimping on the flipper tab. There's jimping on the spine of the blade. It's a high flat grind, I believe. Very slicey. I replaced the pocket clip on this. It was a folded over steel one. I replaced it with a titanium one that's not deep carry, but I think looks better. Yeah. These are a bargain at like 40-ish bucks, and I got this one quite a bit cheaper than that used. Um, I might be missing a screw though, now that I'm looking at it. But yeah, it's a keeper. It's a winner. Um, Wish that it had a little nicer blade steel than D2. Maybe some future version of this could be made with, you know, something else. Just like Nitro V would be fine, right? Which should still be a budget steel. All right, one more Civivi. Got the what do we call this? The mini Mastodon in Damascus, and this is a highly polished Damascus. Full flat grind. Because of the height of the blade, it's a very efficient cutter. I've used this for a little bit of food prep. Carbon fiber over G10 scales. Again, I upgraded the pocket clip to titanium. Just a great little cleaver style EDC. And yeah, I carried this quite a bit in 2022. And still looking good, despite getting plenty of use. If you clean your knives up good, you'd be surprised, you know, how much use you can get out of them without making them look beat to hell. Got a few designs on the table by Bob Terzuola. Well, let's see, 2 at least. These are basically variations of the same thing. This is from Fox, Italy. It's a Bob Terzuola designed knife. This one's in G10, and the blade shape is a little different. It's a reverse tanto, I suppose you could call this, or you know, I mean, it's not that different in shape from what Hogue is calling a Wharncliffe, but I wouldn't call this a Wharncliffe. Kind of a similar shape to the Benchmade 940 Osborne. You know, I mean, there's not too many things you can compare this to because it's got, you know, kind of an odd shape to it. But this one has a pocket clip. They make a couple versions of this that do not have pocket clips that are wood handled. I have those as well. They're not as convenient for daily carry. I like having a pocket clip. This one is an N690, I believe. Yeah, N690CO. Made in Italy, designed by Bob Terzuola. Looks fantastic. I like the, you know, I like the thumb disc opener, which some reviewer was complaining that they were plastic. It's not plastic. It's not plastic. It's steel. And there's a liner lock there that has good lockup. I like the sort of shadow box effect that they've done with the milling around the edges of the G10 there. Yeah, it's a nice knife. I even prefer, though, to that one, this version, right? Which, if I'm not mistaken, I think this one is called the Sicilian. Again, it's Fox Knives, different blade profile, right? This is a drop point, or I guess you'd call it a spear point, maybe. Flat ground. Again, Bob Terzuola design. And the steel on this is B-cut. This is the only knife I have in B-cut. I have daily carried this a bit. It has been good so far. I really like the texture of these micarta scales. They're calling this green micarta. It's not very green. But you know, micarta can have a lot of different feels. It can feel more plasticky, or it can feel more like fabric, which this one does, right? And it's got more, you know, it just feels like the grip is a little more secure, not as slippery as one that's really, you know, got a hard coat of resin on it. And I like the orange accents. Orange backspacer, orange thumb disc, opener. Deeper carry than the other one, but still not quite deep carry. Wire pocket clip. Yeah. This is a sleeper. This is a great knife. All right. Most folks are familiar already with this Hogue I mentioned. You know, this is the Magnacut version. People are, you know, were really excited about these. There was a big, you know, back order list. People were ordering them, and you know, it's hard to keep up with the demand, I guess, for some of the retailers. Um, it's the Deka is really most often compared to the Benchmade Bug Out, and for good reason. You know, I mean, it's similarly light. They're priced similarly. You know, the Deka originally was in 20 CV steel, whereas the Bug Out typically is in S30V, although there are versions of it in other steels. This Magnacut was a big headline. Word on it is that, again, people are saying it's not ideally heat treated. I have not put it through such torturous use that I really have an opinion about whether or not it's well heat treated. But it has, I've used it plenty. Um, and it's sharp, it cuts well. I like the compound grind on it. Some people think that's a complication for sharpening. Not really. I mean, even if you just sharpened at one angle across here, you'd still get the benefit of two different sort of like cutting efficiencies based on the geometry of the rest of the blade, right? It would still perform differently cutting at this area than cutting at this area, even if the secondary bevel was sharpened at the same grind angle. I have the option of setting different grind angles when I'm sharpening. I have several different sharpening systems, so I can preserve the two different grind angles without too much difficulty. I will say the polymer scales are not the best feeling thing in the world and not the grippiest thing in the world, which is partly why I picked up a version in carbon fiber. This is Scorpion. This is an exclusive to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. They call this combination of colors Scorpion carbon fiber. I think it's from fat carbon fiber. It's got sort of a gold inlay or gold material in there. Of course, these use the Axis lock or some, you know, the Able lock is what Hogue calls it, but it's basically the same thing as the Benchmade Axis lock. This version is the clip point, whereas the previous one I showed you was the what they're calling a Wharncliffe, kind of a sheep's foot edge, or you could even call that maybe like a reverse Tonto, maybe, right? These open and close really well. The feel of this carbon fiber is a little better than the polymer, and yeah, maybe it's slightly grippier. Yeah, I guess you could say it's a little grippier. Anyway, cool knife. This one's not that much more expensive. Well, I think this is listed right now as $199 on the SMKW site, and you can find these for under like $140, I think. So that's a fairly significant difference, but I think sometimes these are on sale, and so the price becomes closer to what you would pay for just a regular polymer one. I'd say, you know, and they have it both in the Wharncliffe and the clip point blade. So I guess if I was going to get one with a Magnacut blade, I'd go ahead and try and get the SMKW one that has the carbon fiber, which also just looks cool, right? All right, so that's basically two of the same knife, and then we can do that one more time. Got basically two of the same knife here again. This is the Kizer Cormorant, which I carried this micarta one quite a bit this year. I didn't get this titanium one until late in the year, so I haven't carried it as much. I really prefer either of these to the G10 version, the black and white G10, that is just a pocket shredder. It's just got a very aggressive texture, and there's no flat spot under where the pocket clip is, and it will just eat your pocket fabric material. But of course, this is a very fidgety knife. You know, it's a button lock, but it's also got a finger slot or thumb hole. It's got a regular back flipper. It's got a front flipper. You know, you got all the different opening options. The blade shape on this, you know, you got belly, but then you got this, you know, kind of, I don't know if I'm going to call that a clip or reverse tanto, or, you know, it's a little bit hard to categorize this blade shape, but it's cool, and it's you know, it's a hollow grind. This one is in CPM 3V. This was an exclusive for White Mountain Knives, and this was also an exclusive for White Mountain Knives. This titanium one in M390. I think the basic model is an S35VN steel, which is fine. There are other titanium versions of it. I think there's one in 20CV maybe, which is basically the same thing as M390. That one has like a waffle pattern on the handle scales. But both of these, the micarta one and the titanium one, are less aggressive on your pocket. I'm not in terms of how much they cost, but in terms of the actual physical damage shredding your pocket from the pocket clip. This one I think is cool because it's got a titanium pocket clip, but it is folded over, right? Which usually you see milled pocket clips in titanium, or, well, I mean, this may in fact be milled, but it's deep carry, right? Yeah. Great knives. Absolutely great. And it's got a little bit of a finger choil up here, so you can get a more full grip on it. Or you can choke back. It's a little weird because you know, you can choke back way back, or you can choke up, but the kind of intermediary spot there is not really a comfortable option. Anyway, yeah, Cormorant is a winner for sure. All right. What else do we got for you? Ooh, quite a bit left on the table here, isn't there? All right. I'll try and go through these relatively quickly. Delica, I picked up a Delica this year in used in ZDP 189. These are no longer on the market. They are discontinuing the Endura in ZDP 189. You can still get those. They are flat ground, which is going to make them more efficient cutters. I think that with this steel, it makes sense to have a saber height grind because the steel is kind of brittle. It's extremely hard. It'll hold an edge like nobody's business. It's one of the most edge retentive blade steels that you're going to come across. And, you know, it is a bit of a bear to sharpen. I did it with a Ken Onion work sharp. So it's now convexed too, which I think is also good with this steel because convex edges are less chippy than conventional grind. Yeah, it's not really a 2022 knife, except that I got it in 2022. And it's got this British racing green handle scale. I carried this a fair bit this year, and yeah, it is, you know, the Delica is a classic for a reason. It's a great shape, very usable, reliable knife. And ZDP, you know, it's a pretty neat steel. If you don't have anything in ZDP 189, I'd go ahead and pick up, if you can, pick up one of those Enduras before they're gone. And I would recommend putting a convex edge on it so it doesn't chip as easily. All right, get that out of the way. Case has been venturing outside of their comfort zone lately, and they've made a couple of flippers. And this one is sort of a standard model in S35VN of the Marilla, the red aluminum handles and the G10 inlay. And this one has great action. It flips open and the lockup is solid, but then it's actually pretty easy to unlock and close. I picked up another one of these in Magnacut with a, instead of G10 inlay, with a fat carbon fiber inlay, and that was an exclusive to SMKW. That one, for me, the one I got had really bad lock stick, and so I had to go back, even though hated to do it because I like this design. I really like this particular knife, and if this blade steel was Magnacut instead of S35VN, that'd be so much the better, right? Magnacut is a more desirable steel in several ways than S35VN, but the lock stick was unacceptable, so I had to go back. And S35VN is a good steel. The only thing, really the only complaint I have about this knife, this particular sample of it, other than the lock stick that was on that other sample that I saw, the only real complaint I have about this model is the pocket clip is pretty high, and so you do feel that in your hand, right? Most case knives don't have a pocket clip at all, and I guess you could take this one off, and but kind of the whole idea of modernizing the knife is to give it some of those modern features, including a clip. I would just, if they came out with another version of this that had recessed screw heads and a little bit lower profile pocket clip, I think that would be awesome. I think Case would really have a winner. Okay. Couple of other oddballs here. This Tops knife, this is the MSF 4.0 Mini Scandi Flipper. 4.0, I think is what that MSF 4.0 stands for. This is a Scandi grind knife. This was fantastic for doing some wood carving. I did EDC it, and it did work fine for other purposes. I got this used and had to do a lot of repair to get that blade back in shape because it was chipped up pretty bad, which, that's the downside of a Scandi grind. It's awesome for carving wood, but it is brittle and chippy if you try and do, other kinds of tasks with it. You can get some pretty good chips in it pretty easily. Burgundy micarta, I guess that's a burgundy, kind of a brown micarta. Slightly, a little bit of reddish in there. Yeah, probably not what I would recommend as a daily carry for most people, unless you were mostly going to spend most of your days outdoors and we're going to do some whittling and stuff like that. But I really like it. I really like it. Also for outdoor use primarily, I carried this Spyderco Shaman. This is the M4 version. This was an exclusive to Blade HQ. This has what they're calling green micarta handle scales. I'm not going to belabor the point very much because the Shaman has gotten a lot of attention. If you're watching knife videos on YouTube, you probably know about the Spyderco Shaman. It's got a compression lock, good action, runs on, not on ball bearings, but on phosphor bronze washers, which are fine. So a lot of people like to replace the clip on this. I don't see much point in it because if you're going to carry a knife this large, it's going to be conspicuous. You might as well have some of it showing. And yeah, I took this camping a few times this year, and it's great. M4 is a great steel. It's not stainless, right? You got to take care of it. It will patina even if you do take care of it, but there's nothing wrong with the patina. All right. This knife I got near the beginning of the year. I was very excited about it. I'm a big fan of Robert Terzuola. You saw two other Robert Terzuola designs already on the table. This has got a compound grind. This is the MKM Clap. This one has titanium bolsters, and this is the natural micarta handle scale here. On the web photos, it often looks lighter than this, but this is what it looks like, or at least this one when it showed up, and it is. This is not some other color. This is with the natural. Crown spine again, as we saw from the previous MKM. Harpoon tip, drop point with a fuller, compound grind. The grip, the ergonomics on this, you know, are a little fussy because you're got to be behind that flipper tab, so you don't have as much real estate on the handle as it might look like. Um, no jimping anywhere on this. Really the only complaint, I mean, the main complaint I have about this knife is that the liner lock has no jimping on it and is also crowned, right? So it's kind of a slippery little thing, which is not what you want in a liner lock. You want to be able to grab that thing and very securely get a grip on it to close it. That's a anodized titanium backspacer in blue. Looks awesome. Blue accents on the pivot. Yeah, M390 steel, made in Italy. Cool, sort of like gentlemanly upscale knife. And yeah, I did carry it some this year. CJRB. This is White Mountain Knives exclusive button lock version of the Feldspar. Is that correct? I think it's the Pyrite that is popular now that has come out as a button lock, and you know a lot of people are saying it's the first button lock from CJRB. Well, this exclusive was available earlier than that, but only through White Mountain Knives, and the button lock action on it is great. The blade profile is not the same at all, but the handle shape is very similar to a Benchmade Griptilian. You know, so if you like the ergonomics of a Griptilian, you probably like the way this knife feels in hand too. Except this is black canvas micarta as opposed to Grivery or whatever nylon, reinforced nylon stuff they put in a Griptilian. Yeah, then these are not expensive. It's like less than $50 if I remember correctly. I don't know where this white, oh, that wipes off. Okay. This is the Kizer swayback. This is designed by Swags, a woman who used to be affiliated with Smoky Mountain Knife Works as sort of a spokesperson who is now sort of a YouTube personality and knife designer. She's done some stuff for CJRB, and she's done a couple designs for Kizer. I also have the chili pepper from Swags, but I got that late in the year, so it's not on this collection because I didn't carry it very much. I carried this a good bit, and it's a great little design. I mean, she says that one of her favorite knives early on was the Kershaw Leek by Ken Onion, and you can see some of that Leek DNA in the design here. Right? I mean, it's a Wharncliffe blade. It's a similar size. You know, it's small but very capable knife. Easy to carry, contoured handles, and this is in 4V. This is in CPM 4V. This is the Knife Center exclusive version, which costs a little more than the regular version of this, which is an N690 steel. There are also versions, I think White Mountain Knives has one in CPM, or no, just 154 CM. But yeah, it's runs on bearings. It's a good little flipper. And yeah, I've carried this a good bit and enjoy it. This I got relatively recently, so I haven't carried it a lot, but I have carried it some. This is a Beglader 2 from Kizer. This one, of course, is kind of special because it has Reford Noble handle scales. It's a button lock version, and it has CPM 35 VN blade steel. The Beglader is a familiar design for a lot of knife people at this point. It's been around for a few years. You know, this one is got a little bit of a clip at the end. There are other versions that are more like a drop point. There's Tonto versions. So there's different blade profiles that are all under the Beglader uh, line. Pretty comfortable. A little bit of a hot spot from this clip. I don't love the basic Kizer clip, but I think that this handle material is awesome. And S35VN is a good steel. I like that this has both thumb studs and a button lock. I'm glad it doesn't have a flipper because there's no flipper tab kind of in the way down here. Yeah, good knife. Well done, Kizer. All right, down to last couple of knives here on the table. This is an SMKW exclusive version of the MKM Isonzo. This thing is a box opening fiend. This is the hawkbill version. It's got a recurve. Again, this is one of those little blades where you can get a full grip. I wear size XL gloves. I can get all 4 fingers on there because it's got that forward finger choil. And it does have a flipper tab, but that flipper tab is not obnoxious. It ends up landing between your fingers. It's got serious jimping on the top there. That's not just courtesy jimping. That is usable heavy duty stuff that is going to really add to your grip and control over this small blade. And then I'm not a big fan of hawkbill knives in the sense of like things like this Macerin K-bar, that's more of like a weapon kind of a thing. But as a utility blade, this just slight hawkbill makes a lot of sense. It presents the tip down for draw cuts. And yeah, like I said, this thing is probably the best box opening knife that I have, and it's considering that the blade is so small, that's saying a lot. It's an M390 steel. This version has jungle wear fat carbon handle scales. These are rapidly selling out at SMKW. If you want to get one, you probably better hurry. They did come in a few different colors. Most of the colors are sold out now. I tried to get it in red. I ordered it in red, and then I canceled my order and refunded me the money because there was an inventory issue. They didn't have any left. They thought they did, I guess. Some kind of problem. Liner lock. You can reverse flick it. Again, it's like the Spyderco Dragonfly in that you get a ton of knife from a small blade. It is, however, thicker than a Dragonfly. So you're going to notice it a little bit more in your pocket, but not a lot more. Right? All right. Sorry for that little skip there in the video. I ran out of space on my storage media. I had to make some changes. Back to you now with the Demco 80-20.5. This knife has gotten a lot of attention this year. A lot of people have fallen in love recently with this model. The headline feature of it is the Shark Lock from Andrew Demko, who of course has done some cool things in the past with knife locks. It is a very strong lock, and it's very fidgety and fun to play with. It is, however, I will say, loud. The way microphones work on video devices, most of them are condenser microphones, and so it's going to put some compression in there. You're not going to be able to really tell a significant volume difference between this and a quieter one because it's going to amplify the quiet sounds and reduce the loud sounds to keep everything within a normative range. But I can tell you for sure that just being here with my own ears, this lock is making more noise and louder noises than any of the other ones that I've shown you so far. Which, usually not an issue, but if for some reason you don't want a loud lock, then maybe this is not for you. This version of the 20.5 is an exclusive to Knife Center. This is in 3V steel, CPM 3V, which I think is a big upgrade from the AUS 10 steel, which is fine. I mean, AUS 10 is a perfectly okay steel. that is in the most of the production models available at other retailers. There are some other steel options available for this knife as well, and of course a lot of different handle options. This one originally came with red polymer handles and a red backspacer. I have replaced the polymer handles with G10 natural jade G10 scales that come from Demco. There are now third-party scales available as well, but these ones come from the same manufacturer as the knife as an aftermarket accessory. And also I added Demco's titanium barrel spacers instead of a backspacer. I'm probably also going to swap out the thumb stud for a anodized purple titanium one just for looks. But yeah, this knife is available, of course, in what they're calling the shark foot, which is really a sheep's foot kind of blade profile, or in a clip point, and there's now a drop point too that's just about to be released. And it's not a deep carry pocket clip at all, but it's a perfectly usable pocket clip. And yeah, I haven't had this knife very long, but I have carried it quite a bit in the short time I've had it. It is, it's a good knife. You know, I think it's really deserves a lot of the attention that it has gotten this year. And you know, I like the design of it. You can get your finger up here in front of that hump. There's sort of a little bit of a finger choil going on there. Not technically, it's because it's not in the blade. It's only so I guess it's more of a finger groove forward of this carry position. You can get your finger up there for choking up and use the jimping and get a lot more control over that blade for fine detail work. Great for draw. This blade profile is great for draw cuts, right? And yeah, this is definitely, you know, a winner. One of the coolest knives of the year for sure. And it's, you know, it didn't come out, I don't think this year. I think it came out a little bit earlier than that, but it's certainly taken off this year in 2022. One bonus knife to show you, one more Robert Terzuola design. This is from Mass Drop, which is, you know, the knives are manufactured by We. These are available from Blade HQ, and you can find them on Amazon as well. And you can also find them on a place called Covert Outdoors, where right now this knife is on sale for $89. And so for $89, you get CPM S35VN blade steel, this awesome Robert Terzuola design. This is the CTF, Compact Tactical Folder, and it's a flipper with titanium liners, titanium hardware, titanium pocket clip, G10 handle scales. It comes in tan or green. There's Robert Terzuola's iconic dragon head logo. Not a lot of billboarding on here, just says Mass Drop on this side. Fuller thumb disc. Thumb disc is titanium. You know, the knife that did come out in 2022, and that I have, but I'm not including in my my most carried knives because, frankly, didn't make the cut, is the Terzuola ATCF Lite. Terzuola, you know, is a custom knife maker who has now ventured into production knives. I mean, he's been around for a long time. He's sort of a major figure in knife design, pocket knife design, and he has done production models with other companies. He's done production models with Spyderco and with CRKT and with Microtech and ProTech. Now also Mass Drop. But now he's got his own line, the ATCF Lite, which is smaller than this. This is 3 1/4. The ATCF Lite is 3 1/2. It retails typically at $99. You can find them a little less than that at Chicago Knife Works. I like it. It's a fine knife, but it's a little too small for me. And this is $10 cheaper for a better blade steel This is CPM 35 VN as opposed to the Nitro V in the ATCF Lite. This has got a longer blade and titanium accents, titanium hardware, as opposed to steel in the ATCF Lite. So while these are available, I would say this hands down beats the ATCF Lite as an EDC option, unless you've got a 3-inch blade restriction. Right? If you have to have 3 inches or smaller, then yeah, the ATCF Lite is your guy. But if you're not limited to 3 inches, this is definitely a better knife at a better price. So get it before they're gone, because I don't think they're going to make any more of them after this run. But yeah, you know, it's G10, but it's not just flat. It is you know, knocked down, chamfered around the edges. And this is a good carry option. I have this in both tan and the green one, and it's a great little knife. All right, that's been my rundown. Happy holidays, happy New Year. Hope 2022 was tolerable for you. Hope 2023 is better. Bye bye.